Welcome to yet another leadership conversation on ET Edge Insights. Today we have with us Vikram Gupta, founder and managing partner, Ivy Cap Ventures. Mr. Gupta, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you, Sameer.
Right off the bat, the concept of an endowment fund is very unique, especially in the Indian context. Now, what inspired you to, firstly explore this concept in an Indian context, and what are the learnings that you had along the way?
So, this is a topic very close to my heart. I studied in an Indian institution as well as in a US university. It's very interesting, the concept of endowment has actually become very common in the US because that's how the US universities have flourished over time. But I was quite surprised that in India it had not taken off until very recently. We set up Ivy Cap Ventures in 2011, and when we were setting up Ivy Cap, the whole concept of Ivy Cap was based on the alumni engagement. In fact, the original idea was that we were going to invest only in the IIT alumni. We were going to raise capital only from the IIT alumni. And we said we'll only have the team coming from the alumni ecosystem. So that's how the concept of Ivy Cap started. And we said that typically in a venture capital model, 20% of the profit that you make from your investments, that goes as something called carried interest to the fund management team. From that profit, we decided to give back about 25% of that profit as endowment to the IITs, because the whole concept was that the alumni will invest in this fund, and 25% of profit that we are going to make will give back to the respective IITs of the alumni investors investing in a fund. A concept that really struck very well with all the alumni. In fact, in the first 2 years, we reached out to about 75,000 IIT alumni. There are about 500,000 alumni in the ecosystem now. And basically, talking about three things. We said we are raising 200 crores. At that time, we were raising 200 crores. We said, would you like to invest in this fund? And the ticket size used to be very small at that time. The second point was, would you have an investment opportunity, or are you an entrepreneur yourself? And can we invest in you? And the third point was, give us 1 day of your month as a mentor to us, and we'll take that 1 day contractually. We received about 25,000 responses at that time. Majority of the people agreeing to 1 day a month and pro bono. And primary reason why these people got connected to the whole concept was this endowment. While the concept was seeded at that time, and we're talking about 13 years back now, it was only later that I realized that we actually don't even have endowment structures in IITs. We assumed that there will be some endowment structures. When my 25th year reunion happened at IIT Delhi, that time I was just talking to all my batchmates and basically said, hey, why don't we give back collectively to the campus? And that's when I realized that there was no formal structure, and it was being done very ad hoc, with people giving back to their respective departments, or just giving for specific purposes, but there was no endowment concept. That's when I made a presentation to the board of IIT Delhi, and Kumar Mangalam used to be the chairman at that time. They had originally given me only 15 minutes for the meeting, and then finally it became almost 2 hours where we talked about the whole endowment concept. It took about 2 years after that to formally launch India's first endowment fund at IIT Delhi, which was launched by the Honorable President at Rashtrapati Bhavan, where they invited me, my family, Ivy Cap team, the initial set of alumni who contributed to the fund. In fact, on that day, I remember we had 256 crores of commitments for that fund, which was targeted to be $1 billion fund. And one of the things which I realized works very well, and fortunately worked very well, because I'm also a musician. So I actually composed and created a song for the endowment fund, picturizing the lead accomplished IIT Delhi alumni in that song. We shot those people across different parts of the campus in IIT Delhi. That song became the endowment fund song. In fact, even today, if you go to IIT Delhi, if you go to YouTube and type IIT Delhi Endowment Fund, you will see that song with the founders of Policy Bazaar, Zomato, Flipkart, Delivery, Vinod Khosla, Chetan Bhagat, all these people are there in the video. Basically demonstrating the fact that the quality of alumni created by an institution like IIT Delhi, despite that, no endowment fund. So that led to a wave of awareness amongst people. The song became viral. The Honorable President himself started talking about this endowment concept in his speech. The endowment fund song itself was played at the time of launch. And 6 months later, IIM Ahmedabad set up their endowment fund with the same template. IIT Madras set up later. I'm now helping a few other institutions to set up their endowments. IIT Kharagpur is setting up their endowment. IIT Bombay wants to set up on the same concept. So actually, this whole concept becomes very core thesis for Ivy Cap's philosophy. In fact, as a principle, now as the fund size is increasing, 10% of our profit have been committed as endowments. So we are told that no other venture capital fund or even private equity fund globally has a concept like this. And this concept also helps us build a very powerful connection in the ecosystem. So in fact, that's the reason all the alumni of IITs and now IIMs, BITS and ISB as well are very deeply connected with us, because we believe in actually giving back to their alma maters. And then we are, of course, expanding this to other institutions as well.
That's inspirational, but I want to understand from you, and while this journey began with the Ivy Cap model with IIT Delhi, what are the key milestones that brought you the most happiness along this journey, specifically with the Ivy Cap model with the?
Yeah, I think there are a few very important milestones. Of course, one was the launch of the fund at Rashtrapati Bhavan. It was a proud moment. The fact that when the president pressed the button of launch and my song played, that was a high moment for me personally. Then, of course, the actual fund getting set up with all the documentation, because the structure is really unique. You have to have the structure compliant with the IIT constitution. At the same time, making sure that the management of it is done with the principles of managing a fund with the proper fund management system. And at the same time, reaching certain milestones in terms of achieving some minimum corpus with the fund. So the initial corpus of 256 crores itself was a huge milestone. Going and convincing some of these IIT alumni like a Sachin Bansal or a Binny Bansal and many other people who decided to give back was a big milestone. So every time somebody would say, yes, I'm part of it, was a milestone. And I think now, of course, it's a well-established structure, team, and there's an office now in the building, which is very good office. Of course, the execution of this is becoming very important. I was at IIT Delhi Abu Dhabi campus just a few days back, and we were celebrating the concept of endowment there. And it was quite impressive to see the quality and quantity of not just the IIT Delhi alumni in that area, but also other IIT alumni. They were all thinking of ways to give back to their respective alma mater. So seeing that, starting from that concept of thinking about the idea to seeing this kind of a wave which is emerging now, where people are really thinking of various ideas to engage with the campuses and give back, that's very, very satisfying.
Through this journey, and while we look at the Western world, you look at the Americas, it's a concept that is well established, right? And it's something that has multiple iterations, multiple editions. What have been the key roadblocks or challenges for this to really flourish in India?
Excellent question. And I'll tell you that roadblocks, actually there are roadblocks which continue to be there. So I'll tell you what happens in the US universities and the endowments of Harvard, Yale, Princeton are pretty sizable. Harvard itself, I'm told, is about $55 billion. Um, Yale, I'm told, is about 25, $30 billion. Now, typically this fund, the concept of the endowment is actually to use these funds across different investment products with the objective of generating good quality returns. And usually these endowments would focus on at least 15% IRR annually. And we're talking about dollar IRR, right? So with those kinds of IRRs, the return on that endowment capital is what they want to utilize for development purposes. Now we're looking at some data and we're comparing this returns data with respect to the annual budget. Now Harvard has an annual budget, I'm told, is about $5.6 billion. And this return on this endowment, I think, was contributing about 40 to 50% towards that. And similarly, a comparison was done where currently, IIT Delhi is about a very small number in terms of contributing towards the budget of the institute. I think we need to reach a situation where the return on this endowment reaches about 100% of the budget of the institute, so that the institute becomes self-sufficient. That's the whole idea. Now, I think the other issue, which is very, very important, it's primarily the alumni who give back, but there are also various foundations, various CSR activities that actually want to give back. But part of the reason people are not becoming very active or are not very excited about giving is because they're not yet confident about the investment aspect of this. For example, before this whole concept was set up, one of the biggest issues with whatever alumni used to contribute, it used to be deployed in fixed income, like a FD, and FD would give you very small returns. I mean, IIT Delhi, I think, would be getting somewhere around 7%, and there's no tax on it. So effectively, it's effective about 10% pre-tax kind of returns that you're getting. Now imagine if I'm an alumnus and I'm giving, let's say, 10 crores to the institute, and if I know that institute is only going to get 7% return on it, I would say, look, I'm not going to give you the money. I would rather keep it myself, because I can generate 15% myself. I will generate 15% and I'll give you 7% out of that, because anyways you're going to return the same amount of money. So therefore the challenge is that, unless the institute can demonstrate that the returns are better than what you can get yourself, people will not come forward and donate. So I think there are only two factors currently which are driving people for giving. One is that there's an emotional connect, so people do want to give. So if people say, eventually this institute has helped me, so let me give the institute some money. The second factor is they do get tax benefits. So once you donate, money to the institute, especially to IITs, you get 100% tax benefit. They are not giving because they believe that institute can use that money for multiple purposes. In fact, they don't trust that this money will be utilized in the right way, because they don't see the right management structure, people, systems, things like those. Unless they see that for a period of time, they would not be convinced. I think it's been now about 5 years since IIT Delhi Endowment Fund was set up. It has gone through ups and downs because there was COVID in between. I think it'll take about a few more years before people start getting a lot more comfort. The returns aspect is now also getting addressed, because an independent team was set up to really address the issue of getting better returns. And I think that has also been partially addressed. I wouldn't say completely addressed. And I think that will give a lot more comfort. Therefore, the size of the endowment will grow much faster. And I do see a potential to really exponentially increase the number. The vision that I had showed to the board in that presentation was $1 billion vision. And when I put that number, $1 billion, I think people just didn't believe me at that time. But I think then after that, everybody started talking about $1 billion vision, which I think is good, because unless you have that vision, because I think we're talking about And IIT Delhi, which is about 62,000 alumni, all IITs put together about 500,000 alumni. Look at the kind of value IITs are creating around the world, and they want to give back. And look at the kind of wealth being created. And I think the potential is much larger than $1 billion. I think IIT Delhi itself can easily aim for a $10 billion fund. But I guess we have to take it a step-by-step approach. I think the first critical step has already been taken. The second step is to give that confidence to the alumni. The third step is to reach that $1 billion mark. And the fourth step is to reach the $10 billion mark and become a prominent institution globally.
You have touched upon a very critical aspect of this entire journey, and that is the trust, or the fact that there has to be confidence. What can an institute do from their part to build that confidence and trust?
Yeah, I think number one is engagement. I think the more you engage with your alumni in different ways, the more trust you build. Because one of the biggest issues is communication. Unless alumni know what is really happening in the campus, it's very hard all of a sudden one day just go to them and say, hey, will you donate to the campus? That people don't easily build that confidence. So you have to engage with those alumni over a period of time, very periodically. So that's one thing which has started happening at IIT Delhi for sure, and I know some of the other IITs do it very systematically. And there are some private institutions which also try to do it. I think BITS has now started doing it. And Professor Ram Gopal Rao, who was the director at IIT Delhi when this endowment fund was set up, and he was one of the prime forces behind that fund as well. He's now the vice chancellor at BITS Pilani. So obviously he's taken that mandate over there. So obviously that being a private institution, will obviously have a little bit more flexibility in terms of doing things. But I think engagement is very important. Policy making around enabling structures and systems and processes, I think that becomes very critical. Especially in IITs when a lot of things are governed by the government, a lot of policies in terms of how the funds are managed, what is classified, where the money can be deployed. I think a part of that has happened, but I would say a substantial part of that is not yet happened. So the government needs to very actively look into this and really create enabling systems and processes and policies to make sure that people feel more comfortable. And of course, eventually, finally, it comes down to alumni also need to find more meaningful ways to come together and really give back.
Amazing. And this has been in motion for quite some time now. It is the success story. What are the success stories that it has spawned? If you can share some more examples of the kind of investments, the kind of enablement that the fund itself. Yes.
I guess it's too early to say anything about those investments. I think I'll tell you one thing which has happened and it's yet to happen. People are still giving the money to the endowments for very specific purposes. Somebody would say, okay, I'm giving you 10 crores, but put a building in my name. Somebody will say, I'm giving you 10 crores, but make a department or make a chair in my name. I think those purposes are usually very targeted, and then it becomes very restrictive. The idea of endowment is to give money which is free from restrictions. That has not yet happened yet. So I think some of these investments have happened primarily for infrastructure building. Now there are certain projects like in IIT Delhi especially, there are 5 hostels which are which need serious development. I think they are crumbling in terms of the demand supply gaps which are there. There's a huge size of the batch and very limited number of hostel rooms, etc. So those 5 hostels need reconstruction. A lot of alumni action has now started happening in terms of bringing funds together. But I think it again goes back to the concept of bringing a lot more unrestricted capital, which is going to then fund such projects in future, because projects will keep coming, and as the growth happens, more and more projects will come. So you need to build a minimum corpus. So I think eventually it will happen, but I think it's a matter of time.
This has been enlightening, Mr. Gupta. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us, and best wishes from the entire ET Agent Sites team.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.